Alright, we're going to try to do a little more transmission video here. Maybe this will help musty one out, I don't know. Obviously the transmission that that I gave you didn't work. I gave that to a guy that didn't have the proper nose cone, and they tried to adjust it for 2 days and it popped out of gear, so more than likely that first and third gear are bad now, for sure. So I got another box out here. What I'm going to try to do is press this apart for you and show you how they come apart and how to put it back together and adjust the fork properly. If you have an old case such as this, take and cut it from here to here, cut the side out of it, and you can bolt your transmission in there. It's important for this plate to be bolted in when you set the shift forks, because it pulls the stack back. Anyway, once you get it bolted in there, you can adjust all your shift forks. Use the stock transmission for a jig. If you're going to do this a lot, you'll need 2 boxes. You'll have to have one for single nut ring and pinion, or for a pinion bearing, and the 4-bolt. This is a 4-bolt like what you have. So you just cut the side of the case out, bolt your gearbox in, and you'll be able to see all your selector shafts, your forks. Now, when the fork's adjusted properly, it should ride in the center of the groove. It shouldn't touch either side. You shouldn't see a wear on either side of that groove or the fork. So if the fork's worn, you definitely need to replace that if you can visually see wear on the fork. A lot of times when they take these forks, they'll TIG weld 3 little pads on each side and then machine it down where it fits in the groove again. But ideally, you don't want the fork to be riding on either side of this groove. The fork's not what holds it in gear. These dogs are. So here's a good first gear. I know this one was good. The reverse was bad. It finally broke. You can see how it's rounded off. This slider is also the reverse gear. You were asking about the rounded off teeth. And probably need to let me send you a slider, a first and second gear slider and a first gear, because I think that's what the issue is. And then third's bad, obviously, in the box and the bus, but you could fix yours with just the first gear and this slider piece. So we have a good first gear here, and these are what drive the car. These are what hold it in, keep it from popping out of gear. You can see these are worn. They won't be sharp. There will be no crown in the center. These all have a line, almost a line, like a spine running down the center of the tooth. Here's a bad one here. You can see it. I don't know if you can see that or not. I don't know how this is going to show up, but it's real shiny and there's no spine left on it. There's another one there, there's another one there, and there's another one there. However, this first gear had enough on them where it's still engaged. You can see a couple on this side too are pretty shiny. So this would be questionable. You just break those shiny ones off with a punch and a hammer, and it'll go to the good ones. Also, the synchronizer should have 20, 30, 40 thousandths clearance between the synchro ring and the synchronizer. They shouldn't touch. All this synchronizer does is slow the gear down, and if it doesn't grind going into gear, then your synchronizer more than likely isn't bad. This is just a brake to slow the gear down so the slider can engage. So you can see these are nice and sharp also, and more than likely if you took that tranny apart that's in the bus that's popping out of gear, you'll see a bunch of these that are rounded off. There's also a shim that you can get to go between here and the pinion bearing to move first gear back a little bit on the shaft. So that shim could be missing, or it might need a shim in the box that you've been showing in their videos. I don't know. I just know this first gear didn't pop out, and then just fix this tranny. I replaced the first gear and the slider, and we were good to go. So I've got another box here that's very similar probably to what you're working on. It's a 2-nut box, then first gear, early model, solid sleeve between third and fourth. We'll go ahead and press this out, and I think all these pieces are really nice shape. And if you're going to try to fix your box and you need some pieces that can send you the stuff out of this, I feel real bad that you put that in and it didn't work, but I was sort of afraid of that. But anywho, I've got this one here. We'll take it inside, and you can see how this one shifts. Let me, well, no you can't because they don't have a camera stand. But hang on a minute here. Let me get creative. There we go. That's engaged in first gear. So I'm not moving the lever because the first thing I do when I get one of these in is I take the 11 millimeters off the shift fork. So the shift fork's basically floating. And the shift fork will come out when we press the stack out. We'll be able to pull this fork out of the way. As soon as we get the stack pressed out of the box, it'll come with it off the shaft. Both of them will. So if there's any measurements I can give you or whatever, like I said, I know this transmission here was a fully functional transmission, and it got a little water in the bottom of the box. So we decided not to use it. Plus it's a narrow first, and these are sort of not something that people usually repair. So that's second, that's first, that's neutral, second, first, it's your coast right there, and then second is sort of notchy because I think the rod's binding. But anyway, let's go press this apart and press, and we'll see what's in there and show you how I do it. As far as putting this back into the case, you don't want to beat on it because it'll damage the pinion bearing. This one's actually a good indication of that. Somebody didn't heat the case, they beat this in. You can see how the race is all caved in from the bearings. So you got two choices. You can deep freeze the whole gearbox assembly after you build it, and it'll drop right in the case because it'll shrink the pinion bearing enough. Or you can gently heat with a torch where the pinion bearing drops in the case, and that will expand that enough to let it fall in place. So that's a good tip there. As far as getting it back in the box, you don't want to beat it in there because then you compromise the crush on the pinion bearing. The other thing that happens that a lot of people don't understand, when these things break or pop out of gear, it's actually trying to push the shafts apart every time it does that, like this, and it can actually wear the gearbox housing out. This one is in pretty good shape though, like I said, so it's just been laying around. I cleaned it up a little this morning. So let's take it over to the press it apart. Again, this is what you'd see if you took yours apart. You know, you were wondering what that looks like. It's just it's got the engagement notches and then the actual flat spot where the gear locks into the dogs. So basically it's just the tip of it and then it locks in. So that's locked in, and that's where that needs to be locked in. And then you can see the synchronizer sitting in there. That's just a brake. And that actually just floats in the it moves in here once it gets into the slider. Once the slider's engaged, the synchronizer's, you know, locked solid in the hub. But anyway, that's that. Took a look at that, and there we go. So let's carry this in there. I got the sand set up, and I'll try not to kill myself doing this. Anyway, so I've got the Harbor Freight press, is what you need. Any press will work. This one's always challenging. So I'll try to get you set up here. And hopefully this isn't too crappy. Anyway, there's that. I'll add some light, extra light maybe. If we get a little light, I don't think you guys can see. I'll open this door up. That might help a bit. And we check the frame. Pretty focused in there. So anyway, we got the old press here. And shit's gonna be flying everywhere because that's just what happens when you work on this thing. It's sort of dangerous. If you can get a helper, get one. Because, yeah. Anyway, you got the jaws here on over the little flat bars that come with the vise here. We're going to set those up. We're going to grab the case. Like I said, we've already loosened the shift forks. Took the 11mm bolts out. There's two 11s. The reverse fork falls out, and then you have your two 11s, one here on the first and second, and one on the third. You don't need to loosen the reverse adjustment screw up. That can stay tight. We've also taken both nuts off, and we're going to drive the pinion out. Okay, not this one, this one. So anyway, here we go. Let's get this set up in here. Just turn it around. This is always hard for me to do because I don't have any hand strength. So, give me a minute. I don't know why I don't make those flatter. A couple of guys have watched me struggle through this and said that I need to get some magnets. And, that's definitely what I need. Need some sort of magnets to hold these up. I've been using these vice grips. They seem to work pretty decent. But that's why I said it's a two-man job. Makes it a lot easier. Obviously, one guy can do it. I'll keep that from falling over. Sort of crude, but it'll work. This one over here. Again, I apologize that you're going through all this trouble. I had that transmission. You know, I watched scooter build trainings for 15-20 years when I worked down there. Watch those blocks will hurt you. But anyway, they're very tricky, and sometimes they'll throw you a curve. I think I got 24 of them that I built before I had trouble with this one, and that's just how it is. A couple guys that I look up to for for advice, that's a pretty good ratio. So I got discouraged with that one and haven't really got back into the transmission building tempo. Not really interested in it, but I'm never too busy to help a friend out that's having trouble. So hopefully this helps Musty one out. That's another thing, guys. I know some guys, you know, they might think one guy has more knowledge than the other guy in the garage. And that's definitely not what the YouTube garage is about. It's about helping each other out and getting through problems. And Musty One is a good friend of mine. I hold his friendship pretty dear, and I wouldn't be making this video if I didn't. I make videos for a lot of you guys, but you know what I mean. Shit happens, so we'll get through it, and we'll get his bus back on the road, and hopefully it won't pop out of gear. But don't ever watch one of my videos and then go tell somebody that I said this or that. You know, each person gets something different from each video, and you got to remember that we all learn different. So you know, this is why I'm pressing this apart. Maybe Musty's more of a visual guy and he wants to see what's in here. That's fine, I'll make a video of that. But anywho, you know what I mean, we're all friends, and Musty's one of my good friends. So, and Musty's got quite a bit of Volkswagen experience. He's actually worked at a Volkswagen shop too, like I did when I was younger. He did the same. So it's one of those things that we have in common, you know. And transmissions are just one of those things that you're gonna have failure, because sometimes you deal with used parts and each gearbox is different. You don't know the abuse the box has been through, so it makes it very hard to determine how it's going to come out. Now with the race boxes, you know, we usually buy all new stuff, new bearings, new gears. We're dealing with a brand new first gear set, new ring and pinion, and even a new gearbox in a lot of cases. So we have it set up in here. We're pretty much ready to go ahead and press that out. We're just going to press that shaft, and you'll feel it'll pop out here. Push this other shaft. Sometimes we get this. Try to slide this around. Very dangerous. Anyway, this is the hardest part for me, is holding the gearbox up to get it set up in here. You can see it can be not easy. Alright, let's set that other one up too. Woo! So this is the kind of shit that takes time, dude. People want to know why it costs so much. There you go. It's the danger part. Of course, if I had those magnets that all my YouTube buddies keep telling me to get, we'd be good to go already. Anyway, let me try to get it in here this time. Nope. Maybe. Maybe. It's just like gravy. It's like gravy. It doesn't taste as good when it falls on you. So I'm not going to edit this because this is how hard this shit is to do. And I should have the magnets, you know, like you guys have mentioned. But I don't. Because the magnets are a very good idea. I don't know if you suggested that, but it makes perfect sense. Anyway, there we go. Back in the sweet spot. You see the assembly's moving now. That bearing was just tight on that side. It's usually not like that. But anyway, the whole shafts will come out the bottom here. And then all this shit's gonna fall on the floor. So you wanna try to hold the gear stacks. But the blocks are gonna fall, the gearbox housing's gonna fall. There you go. We'll try to lift this up. Here we go, we didn't get too hurt. Now let me get you out on the floor here. All right. Hopefully that wasn't too painful for you guys to watch, and I apologize. It is a pain in the ass to get those in those blocks. And if I did this more, I would probably have blocks that were set up for that. But anyway, now you want to just take the gearbox, and you should be able to stand those up and work this out. There goes one fork. There you go. There's your 3-4 and your 1-2 fork there. One of the shift dogs fell out. I don't know, that came out of the 3-4 hub. It's right there. I don't know if I can get it back in there. It doesn't really matter. It'll come out for taking it apart and cleaning it. But there you go. Let's take this apart. You got the nut. This will be in the case like this. This is your fixed first gear. You have the shim. You got the fourth gear. Slider. Got the synchronizer for fourth. You got your bearing. And now we'd have to go back over to the press and press this off. Put our blocks under here, press this down, and then that'll press the hub off. This hub has to be heated to be put back on the main shaft. So after you install third gear in the synchronizer, you drop that on and you press your hub on. So that's that side. Sometimes you can do this, but you're not going to be able to. So let's go back over to the press. I apologize for the shaky cam, guys. And it's zoomed in, so it's going to be even worse, I know. Let me try to get you set up here. That's the F350 gear there, not out of a Volkswagen. All right. So anyway, you usually have to move the table up for this. So I'm gonna have to go up, looks like to the second notch. This fits through here, so. There we go. Use the got my bars for this somewhere. If you got a big enough press, you can put the whole assembly through there. But, this press isn't that big, so I have to teach it under here. So. Use these bars, and then we're gonna press it out of the press fourth gear off, and then we can take the stack apart. As soon as I find my tool here. Again, you got to catch the assembly. Let it snap out of there. There it goes. You also have to heat this gear up to put it back on. And this is a nice tight one, so. Of course. You gotta have all kinds of these little things sticking around the press because you never know. Gave it up right at the end. Now we're back over here on the ground. Sorry for the shakiness. Try to zoom in a little bit. Here's our stack. Now here's your, take this keyway out. Alrighty. So when that fourth gear is pressed on into position, you should be able to take a pair of channel lock pliers and turn this sleeve. Should have a little play in it. This is a keyed fourth gear. Sometimes you hear splined or keyed. This is a keyed fourth gear key.
Are you washing parts in the house or something?
I did earlier, yeah. Anyway, here's your sleeve, third gear. Here's two shims also. They have different thicknesses shims on the shim pack depending on where you want the gears to be. We got our sleeve, our shims, third gear. This is actually second gear. Second gear bearing. There's a slider assembly. First gear, we'll pull that off next. Here you can see there's no spacer or shim there. Sometimes there is a shim. This pinion nut's loose. This is supposed to be tight. That's supposed to be torqued to like 147 foot-pounds. There's a special pipe socket that fits that. But there's the shim that you can add or subtract to move first gear wherever you want it on the stack. So that goes on top of that, and you get your nut. So that's pinion shim. Actually what it does is it spaces the hub. There's our synchronizer. There's our slider. This one's in excellent shape. And there's our first gear. And it's decent too. So if you give me the width, the teeth count on the gear, maybe these are the pieces you need to fix your transmission. I'd replace first gear. And I do have the whole shaft. I got both shafts. I can send you this whole box if you need the pieces. But these are a tiny bit shiny, but you know, they look like they were working. The synchronizer's pretty close to the synchro ring, but it still looks like there's 30, 40 thousandths clearance in there, so there's plenty of life left in that. So, these early transmissions can be very tricky. The later ones are much easier. I'll tell you that right now. The IRS box is a lot easier to build than an early swing axle. It's just how it is. But you know, it's just a matter of getting the bad parts out of there. So hopefully this helped. Show you how to press one apart, how the stacks come apart, and what order and all that stuff. So yeah. So hopefully that that'll help you out. This one here, the actual pinion bearing, is pretty good, but you have to press it off. You have to go back over in the press and get this out of here. There's your plate and the bearing. So you need to clean some of these ring and pinions up. I've got a lot of 347s. I wasn't capturing any of that. But anyway, let me go back through that again real quick. Sorry about that, guys. Thought I had it focused. Here's our pinion shaft. I just took it apart for you. And plate, pinion plate, bearing. This one had a first gear spacer there. Put it on top. Place. This gets torqued, of course. There's a jig you put the pinion in. I think it's like 147 foot-pounds. I'd have to look in my without guesswork VW book. That first gear. Slider. Second gear. Second gear bearing. Synchronizer out. There's that. And then third gear. Third gear shims. Spacer. And then fourth gear. So hopefully that helps you out. Now you know what it looks like in there. Like I said, if you need these parts, let me know. I'm glad to send them to you. It'd probably be best just fixing the one like you said and putting the third gear in there. So hopefully this video didn't get too messed up at the end there. But there you go. That's how it comes apart. And sorry for the long ass video.